Problem 11, which of the following is equivalent to this expression? And this is a distribution problem just written backwards. You're used to seeing something along the lines of s over t, parentheses s minus t. Well, they just wrote it backwards. So here we're going to distribute the s over t to both of the terms. So here I have s over t times this first s minus s over t times this t. So for the first term, s times s is s squared over t minus, for the second term, this t, if you want to put over 1, the t's cancel, so I just have minus s. So here I have s squared over t minus s, or answer choice C. Problem 12. In this polynomial p of x, k is a constant. Now that's a term that you want to know about. A constant just means a number. So a constant is a number. If p of x, so if this equation is divisible by x, what is the value of k? I'm going to take this equation, this function that they're giving me, and they're telling me that it's divisible by x. Well, I'll get into divisible by x in a second. Let's try to simplify this though. Let's distribute the 3 to everything in the first parentheses. So I have 3x squared plus 30x plus 15. Now I'll distribute the negative 5. So negative 5 times x is negative 5x. Here's the key. Negative 5 times negative k. That's going to be a positive 5k. And if I simplify this now, I have that 3x squared, but I have 30x minus 5x, so that's going to be a 25x. I have plus 15, and then I have this plus 5k. And the question is asking me, what is k? But here's the key to the question. P of x is divisible by x. Well, what does that mean? If it's divisible by x, that means if I take this and I divide it by x, it has to go in evenly. That's what it means to be divisible. In order for x to go into something, for example, x goes into 3x squared. If you think about 3x squared over x, it's just equal to 3x. X goes into 25x, right? Because if I have 25x over x, the x's cancel and it's 25. Here's the problem. X doesn't go into the 15. So what I really need to do is get rid of that 15. And if this term, if 5k, if that was equal to negative 15, then the negative 15 would cancel out the positive 15. This would all be gone, and then x would be divisible because x went into these first two terms. So I basically need this 5k to be equal to negative 15 to cancel out with the positive 15. So what does k have to be if I divide both sides by 5? K has to be negative 3, or answer choice A. If k, it's a constant, it's a number, in this case it's negative 3. If k is negative 3, it makes that function divisible by x. Problem 13. In the xy plane, if the parabola with the equation, and they give you the equation of a quadratic equation, which is a parabola when it's graphed, A, B, and C are constants. Remember, constants are just numbers. And it says the parabola passes through the point negative 1, 1. Which of the following must be true? Now remember, when you are given a set of coordinates, the first value represents the x value, the second represents the y value. So this parabola passes through the point negative 1, 1. That means x is equal to negative 1, y is equal to positive 1. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the equation. We're going to take y equals ax squared plus bx plus c, and we're going to substitute in x is equal to negative 1, y is equal to positive 1. So here we're going to have y, positive 1. That equals a times x, which is negative 1, squared, because it's x squared, plus b times x. Well, again, x is negative 1, so b times negative 1, plus c. So if I simplify this, I have 1 equals negative 1 squared. Negative 1 times negative 1 is positive 1. So that's positive 1a. B times negative 1 is negative 1b plus c. So 1 is equal to 1a, so that's a, minus 1b, so that's b, plus c. So look at your answer choices and see which one matches. I know these sides are reversed, but a minus b plus c is your answer. So answer choice letter D. Now we have some grid questions. Remember, grid questions, you can't get a negative number, so no negatives, and you cannot fill in any mixed numbers. So no negatives and no mixed numbers, no 3 1/3. So if you think your answer is going to be 3 1/3, instead of writing that, you would have to write 10/3, or in this case, grid in 10/3. So number 14, for what value of h is 24 equals h over 10 minus 6? Well, we're going to solve this equation for letter h. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add 6 to both sides. So here we're going to have 24 plus 6, which is 30. That equals h over 10. And then now to solve for h, since we have h divided by 10, we're just going to simply multiply both sides by 10. So in this case, h is equal to 300. Problem 15, what is the value for a? So here we're going to solve this equation for a. And the key is this: we have a subtraction sign in front of the second set of parentheses. So we're going to have to remember to distribute a negative 1 to the second set of parentheses. The first parentheses just stays as 2a plus 3. But now I have negative 1 times 4a, so that's negative 4a. And then I have negative 1 times negative 8, which is positive 8 equals 7. I'm going to combine the like terms. 2a minus 4a is negative 2a. 3 plus 8 is 11. And now to solve for letter A, I will subtract 11 on both sides. So negative 2a equals negative 4. And we're going to divide both sides by negative 2. So in this case, A is equal to positive 2. Problem 16, if x is not equal to 0, now that might confuse you, but basically all they're telling you is that if x is equal to 0, if you had an x in the denominator, and if it didn't cancel out, you would have a 0 in the denominator of a fraction, and that would be undefined. X is not equal to 0, what is the value of this expression? Well, when you have multiple values being raised to the second power, you have to remember to raise both in the numerator 3 to the second power and also x to the second power. The 4 is outside the parentheses, so it's going to be 4, 3 to the second power times x to the second power. Same difference in your denominator. We're going to have to take 2 and raise it to the second power or square it, and then x and then square it. So here we have the 4, 3 squared, 3 times 3 is 9, x squared. Denominator, we have 2 squared, which is 4, times x squared. And here it even pays not to multiply it out yet. The 4's cancel, the x squareds cancel, which means here your answer is going to be 9. Problem 17. If x minus 2 is a factor of x squared minus bx plus b. So if I were to factor x squared minus bx plus b, x minus 2 would be one of the factors. B is a constant, meaning b is just a number. What is the value of b? And for certain questions, there are mathematical approaches to it, and then there are also I like to call intuitive approaches to it. See, I need to factor an expression, and whatever this b is, whatever number that is, that same number, only negative, has to be there. So if I, for example, think the other factor is like x minus 3, let's say, if I would FOIL out these two factors, x squared minus 3x minus 2x plus 6, or x squared minus 5x plus 6, x minus 3 can't be the other factor because notice what happened. Here I have a 6, but here I have a negative 5. So I have different numbers occurring in those spots. I need to try to determine what this other factor is so that if I would FOIL it with the x minus 2, I would get the same number appearing. Granted, one positive and one negative, but the same number appearing. Since you need that same number to appear, maybe you would think that the other factor would also have to be an x minus 2 or maybe an x plus 2, so that way I can get the same number appearing when I FOIL it out. If the other factor was x minus 2, if I would FOIL it, I would get x squared minus 2x minus 2x, and then a negative 2 times a negative 2 is a positive 4. So if I combine the middle terms, I would get x squared minus 4x plus 4. Notice that works. If you look at the equation that's given to you, the same number for b, 4, is also now appearing in the middle spot, but as a negative. So what does letter b have to be? Well, in this case, b is this last term, so b is going to be positive 4. So there are some questions where you have to actually work backwards in the process for the math.